Alright, welcome to part 3 of this beginner mandolin scale lesson. And as we get into part 3 here, it's going to drift a little more into beginner/intermediate territory. So what we're going to talk about is what is a scale, and when we figure out how we're defining that, it'll be a little easier for you to figure out how to play pretty much any major scale. Well, not pretty much. You'll know how to play every major scale for yourself, or at least be able to figure it out. So the first thing we need to understand is about whole steps and half steps. And I'm not the best at music theory, so I don't know if I could explain the actual music definition of those things. But on the mandolin, what that's going to mean is a whole step is 2 frets. So if we start on, say, the E, and we go up to the F sharp, that's a whole step. If we do E to F, that's a half step. So a whole step is 2 frets, and a half step's 1 fret. So in a major scale, we have what might feel right now like a random collection of notes. So for the G scale, we have G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, and G. And those we can just know that those are part of the G scale, but why are those the notes of the G scale? Why is there an F sharp in there instead of an F natural? And again, there's more complicated music theory reasons behind this, but what you really only need to know right now is that scales can be defined by the intervals between the notes that we're playing. So in the case of the G scale, G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, and G, if you quantified the intervals in between there, it would be a whole step, half step, nope, did it wrong, whole step, half step. I'm going to do it on the mandolin. Whole step, half step, whole step, half step, whole, half, whole, half. A bit of a mouthful, and clearly a little hard to stick in my brain, but the reason I say that is if we went to the D scale, which we also learned in the first lesson, D, E, F sharp, G, A, B, C sharp, D, if we just start with a D note, and we do a whole step, another whole step, a half step, a whole step, another whole step, and a half step, then we have the D scale. I hesitated for a second there because I forgot to reiterate that on the mandolin, when we get to the 7th fret of a string, it's the same note as the next string. So in the case of G, if I play the 7th fret on the G, it's the same as the open D. So when we're playing that D scale, whole, half, a whole step would be to play that 7th fret, but because this is beginner territory at the moment, we're not using our pinky, so we're just playing the open A. And that's the same, so this G to this open A is a whole step. Whole step, half step. And that's true of any of the scales that we learned in any major scale. That's what defines a major scale in terms of intervals. There are other, again, more musical sort of reasoning behind all of it. But so in the case of F, which was the most different of all of the ones that we learned, we had F, the 3rd fret on the D string. We had a whole step. Then we had another whole step. That's the 7th fret, so we're going to play the A, the open A. Then a half step. Whole step is the 7, so open E, then a half step. And backwards, it would be just backwards of that. So the reason I bring that up is that, say we had a scale like B flat, that sounds a little bit intimidating and kind of strange. We could figure it out using this method and even figure out an open way to do it. So we have start with B flat, so it's a 3rd fret on the G string, B flat, and then a whole step up to the C, and then a whole step which is going to be the 7th, so we could do an open D, and then a half step, which is the E flat, whole step is an F, whole step, which is a G, a half step, which is a, oh wait, is that right? Nope. Oh, yep, there you go. Got it wrong for a minute there. B flat, C, whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, whole step for the open A, and then a half step. Now see, I got a little tripped up there, but I always forget that it's one extra whole step. But, you know, you can figure it out that way. And what this means is that if we start using our pinky as we transition into more intermediate and advanced playing, then we can have a lot of freedom throughout the fretboard, where we can take, instead of being bound to these open strings, if we take, say, our A scale, and we start playing it with the with our pinky instead of doing the open, playing the 7th fret of the G string here with our pinky to make a D note. Well, then we can move that around because we don't have to rely on any open strings, and the mandolin is tuned in such a way that if we move, the fingerings just don't really change like they would on another instrument. So the A scale again, A, we're going to do a whole step, and then a half step. And we know that this is an open D, so we know that this is going to be a whole step. Whole step, half step. When we know that, we can play even some kind of bizarre scales that might not really come up as often, like say the C sharp scale. We could start, we'll start here in the higher octave of the C sharp, which would be impossible to play open because we would run out of open strings immediately. Also, there aren't any open strings in C sharp, I don't think. So we'd start on C sharp, and we'd start with our index finger the same way. Then we'd do a whole step, another whole step, and then a half step. And then, because the mandolin is fifths, every string spacing is fifths, they're all the same, we know that moving our index finger over to the same fret, which right now it's on the 4th fret, on the next string, so the 4th fret on the E string, it's going to be a whole step, then another whole step, half step. So even if we don't know any of those note names, we know just from starting at C sharp how to get through the scale, the major scale, and we'll know that this, we're ending on a C sharp too. And we could do the same thing in the lower octave, where we could start on the C sharp on the G string, which is the 6th fret, go up a whole step, then another whole step. So that's the 6th, 9th, 10th fret, now the 11th, and now the same frets but on the next string. 6, 9, 10, 11. It's a C sharp scale. And of course it's good to go through and learn the note names from there. See if I can do it here. C sharp, D sharp, F natural, F sharp, G sharp, A sharp, C natural, C sharp. I didn't do super well in music theory in high school, but you can figure out all the major scales that way. And so I would suggest that you kind of familiarize yourself with that, and I'll post a video of a little scale exercise that I think will make it both fun and challenging to practice using your pinky and using these repeating sort of interval patterns. Just remember, whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half. Thanks for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe to see when that new video comes out. Good luck with the scales. Okay.